So you remember this video, a crowd running wild in a Wawa convenience store in Philadelphia last month, stealing things off the shelves, ransacking everything. Crime was one of the big issues, obviously, last night here in Pennsylvania. It's a big issue across the country. Our voters here with us at the historic Civic Club of Harrisburg in moments will tell you what they thought about what they saw on TV last night. But first, Fox Business correspondent Jeff Flock joins us with his take from Philadelphia.
Martha, hello to you. A lot of tough neighborhoods in Philadelphia where crime is a problem, but really it has spread across the city and in some ways across the state. Take a look at the latest numbers on crime right here in Philadelphia. Thefts, armed robbery, burglaries, all up, some of them in the neighborhood of 50%. Murders this year in Philadelphia, the latest number, I just checked it, 438. That is roughly the same number as were killed last year in the city, which was an all-time record. John Fetterman says he got into politics to fight against violent crime. Dr. Oz last night telling the debate audience, if you did, sir, you didn't do a very good job. Listen.
Run on my record on crime. You know, I ran to be mayor back in 2005 in order to fight gun violence, and that's exactly what I did. And working with the police and working with our community.
The Fraternal Order of Police from Braddock, the small town he represented, endorsed me. They supported me because what he's saying is not true. Violence skyrocketed in Braddock. I mean, the town wasn't in a good shape when John got there. It got worse when he was there.
In fairness, there were no murders during the time that Fetterman was mayor of Braddock, but violent crime was still very much a factor. And Martha, I leave you with this. Much of the criticism of Fetterman comes from his role as head of the Board of Pardons in Pennsylvania, where he recommended commutations and pardons for some folks, even convicted murderers. A lot of people think that is not the way to fight violent crime. Martha.
Jeff, thank you very much. Jeff Flock in Philadelphia. Let's watch this other moment now from the debate. Watch.
Here's what I think we have to fight about inflation here right now. That's what we need to fight about inflation, you know, right now, because it's a tax on working families, you know, and Dr. Oz can't possibly understand what that is like. You know, he has 10 gigantic mansions.
I've been trying to talk about policy issues with the people of Pennsylvania. As a doctor, I listen to their ideas and I want to talk about them. When John Fetterman brings up houses, the irony is he didn't pay for his own house. He got it for $1 from his sister. And he hasn't been able to earn a living on his own. He's lived off his parents.
So let's see what some voters in Pennsylvania have to say about what they saw last night in this showdown. Noreen Johnson is a registered Republican. P.J. Dolan is an independent, front and center there. Matt Barrack in the back is a registered Republican on the right-hand side. Cynthia Watkins is a registered Democrat who worked for the Pennsylvania House Democrat Caucus. And Shane Elsinger, behind Cindy, is a registered Libertarian. Great to have all of you with us. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day and joining us from all across the political spectrum. You're a great cross-section of citizens from this great state of Pennsylvania. So one of the big questions last night that everyone's talking about today is how John Fetterman did and whether or not he is able to serve after the stroke that he suffered, something everybody is sympathetic about. So I'm going to ask for a show of hands. Do you think that John Fetterman, based on what you saw last night, is able to serve as a U.S. Senator? If you say yes, raise your hand. Okay. So nothing changed. Cindy, let me start with you then, because I know you're committed to voting for John Fetterman. Were you sympathetic? Were you concerned about him last night up there?
I wasn't sympathetic. I was somewhat concerned. But knowing what I know about strokes, I know that it takes a while to recover. And because somebody is not finding words or stumbling over words doesn't mean that they are incapable of serving.
So, PJ, you kind of put your hand halfway up. What was going through your mind as you watched him answering those questions last night?
A lot, Martha. Number one, as Cindy said, yes, he could be capable intellectually of the job. However, my take on it is if you are going for the job of U.S. Senate, you need to be able to effectively communicate on the Senate floor. And if he can't do that physically, that's a big issue.
And you're you're a registered independent, undecided voter. Did you make up your mind last night?
It definitely pushed me more towards Oz. I haven't made the decision yet totally, but I mean, what we saw last night was sad to say the least. I felt for him. I felt empathetic for him, and at the same time concerned. I'm concerned that they even put him out there, to be honest with you. I mean, we're seeing that twice now in this nation.
One of the tough moments for him was his answer on fracking. Let's watch that answer with all of you.
I do support fracking. I've never taken any money from their industry, but I support how critical it is that we produce our own energy.
But there is that 2018 interview that you said, quote, "I don't support fracking at all." So how do you square the two?
I do support fracking, and I support fracking, and I stand and I do support fracking.
Shane, let me ask you, you're a registered libertarian, undecided voter. I believe you're a veteran as well. Is that correct?
Ultra.
Energy is obviously a big issue. So his flip-flop on fracking, what's your response?
Well, as far as fracking is concerned, Pennsylvania needs it, especially in the energy, problems we're having right now. So it's very possible that before, in 2018, maybe he was like, we got to end this, environment. And now that we're in the economic climate we're in, he may have just changed his mind. So that wasn't as hurtful of a exchange for Fetterman as some of the other ones, in my opinion.
So you're undecided.
Yeah.
Did you make up your mind last night?
I will definitely not be voting for Fetterman, I guess is the best way to put it. So.
But will you vote for Oz?
Either him or Gerhardt, the libertarian, of course.
Did Oz persuade you at all last night? I know you.
Yeah, I thought his response on abortion was really well done with, hey, send it to the states where it belongs. That's a very libertarian kind of thing to do. And as an electrician, he pushed the trades several times. He mentioned about, helping bring that along, which I thought was a very good thing for him as well.
Let's watch the response on abortion from Dr. Oz.
There should not be involvement from the federal government in how states decide their abortion decisions. I want women, doctors, local political leaders, letting the democracy that's always allowed our nation to thrive to put the best ideas forward so states can decide for themselves.
So, Noreen, you have said you support Dr. Oz. In that answer, he talked about it being decided by women and their doctors and local political officials, which he's getting some blowback for today. What did you think about the answer there?
Well, obviously, most conservative Republican anyone's are very, very pro-life. That being said, he's also a doctor, so he very much speaks from a medical perspective, and I think that's what he was doing last night. He wasn't necessarily drawing a line between either side. He was more just defining the fact that he's a doctor, and he knows that sometimes there are medical reasons why it would be appropriate.
So I want to ask you about the governor's race as well, because we've been hearing that there will be some split vote. Mastriano, maybe, between Mastriano and Oz on the Republican side. How about you?
I mean, I would never split my vote because I am a party voter. I also know that our country right now is a disaster. So there's only one party for me, and that's Republican.
A disaster in what sense? What's really on your mind?
Do you have about a week to talk about it? Everything from inflation to crime. I just, everywhere you look, it's really gone south.
How many people, raise your hand if you feel that the country is headed in the wrong direction? Everybody. 2 hands. So last night, you're also an undecided voter, Matt. Registered Republican. Did you decide last night?
Going into last night, I would have considered myself undecided and wanted to know more about both of these guys, specifically Oz. Fetterman has a bit of a record where we've seen what he's done in government a little bit. Oz, not so much. As PJ mentioned earlier, going in, I was a bit empathetic watching him because I feel like he needs to be able to make decisions. And I'm not certain, looking at his performance last night, that we could count on him as Pennsylvanians to make good decisions and represent us. There was a neurologist on that I watched following the debate last night who was saying, she doesn't know any more than the rest of us, but typically the therapy done in the first 6 to 8 months is about as good as it's going to get. And so I looked at that, and he's been 5.5 months post-stroke. To think this may be as good as he gets is very concerning.
So, Cindy, you raised your hand that you feel like the country's headed in the wrong direction. In what way?
Well, speaking first of all as an African American, secondly as a woman, and thirdly as a senior, I see a lot of racism, sexism, and ageism that's affecting everybody.
And what about your feelings about the current administration? Are you supportive of President Biden? Do you think he should run again?
I'm not sure that he should run again, but I'm supportive of what he is attempting to do.
And and what is that? When you look at inflation, when you look at crime, do you feel like he's on the right track with those two things? Let me put it that way.
I think so, and I'm also aware that one man can't fix everything, no matter what party.
So when I ask you about crime, how high on the list is crime? Do you feel safe in this country today, or do you feel unsafe? Who wants to?
Unsafe.
You feel unsafe?
So to put it into perspective, this summer my teen daughter wanted to go with a family that I trust and her friends to New York City. Here again, we're talking Pennsylvania, not New York. But I had no issue with the family she was traveling with, had no worries about the decisions they were making. But seeing the news reports of what's happening in our inner cities gave me complete pause in allowing her to go. And that shouldn't be something you really need to think about. If you're okay with everything else about the situation, it's sad to think in America nowadays, you have to wonder what might happen just going to visit a place.
Yeah. In terms of energy, how is inflation impacting your daily life? And maybe, Shane, you could talk about your business as an electrician. I know you run your own company.
Yeah, driving a large truck around every day really sucks up the gas mileage. And it certainly makes a difference on how far you want to travel to take a job and do things like that. You have to factor in a lot more considerations than you used to before.
And are you making different personal decisions about travel or about buying a home, anything along those lines?
I took a different job because of the commute mainly and the violence. I also teach school in the inner city, and I travel 9 miles, and it takes me an hour and 15 minutes to get home. That gas money coupling with that commute, it's just too much, and it all adds up. It affects everything. It affects cost of goods, affects everything.
How's it affecting you, Noreen?
Well, considering, the Democratic Party runs on being for the middle class are hurting. So clearly everyone's affected by the middle class is hurting. But directly to me, I would just say that, yes, I definitely travel less for lots of reasons. But in general, if we don't watch our savings and our 401ks, there's a good chance there'll be nothing left.
So in the beginning, one of the things that John Fetterman was kind of getting leverage on over Mehmet Oz is that he had spent most of his life in New Jersey and moved to Pennsylvania a couple of years ago. Is that a problem for any of you?
Yes, it's a problem for me. I call such people carpetbaggers.
That's what they've been called.
So Martha, I would say entering last night, that was a concern of mine.
Yeah.
I got to say, I didn't particularly like that he spent most of his life, it seems, adult life anyway, in northern New Jersey. That said, we find ourselves in a place where we only have 2 viable candidates right now, which is what I see as part of the problem. There is no realistic third choice that I could foresee winning. So really, when you break it down and look at that, do I see that as something that would keep me from voting for him? No. After last night, I feel pretty strongly now where I need to put my vote.
Okay. So it seems like the undecided voters on the panel after last night are leaning towards Oz. Is that an accurate statement? Undecided? Yeah. Three undecideds, yeah. nodding heads. Yeah. All right. Very interesting. Great to have you with us. And I look forward to talking with you more. We're going to do a continuation for the podcast that'll come out later this week as well. So great to have all of you with us. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Everybody. Great group. So of the 33 House toss-up races in our Fox Power rankings, 2 of them are from Pennsylvania, which are now very much in focus. Candidates in each of those races are going to join me live when our Democracy 2022 coverage continues.